Right.
I did really. I'm gonna have to do that.
Bloopies.
Oh.
Hey everybody, welcome to Actors Review. My name is Travis Conover.
And I'm Ed Squires, and today we're reviewing Free State of Jones.
Let's check it out.
You move fast and you stay close to me.
Take behind! So today we saw Free State of Jones starring Matthew McConaughey. McConaughey stars as Newt Knight, a former Confederate soldier, a deserter who leads an armed rebellion against the Confederacy. I loved Matthew McConaughey in this movie. I thought he was great. His character Newt Knight was definitely someone to emulate. If you get a chance, it's based on a true story, so if you get a chance, Google Newt Knight, see the amazing things he did.
Yeah.
I
think reading about it is the way to go.
So what were your thoughts?
Yeah. So I think the story as a whole could have been told very interestingly, and I think that there were parts in this particular story that were very compelling.
Yes, it did have a lot of interesting things about the story. There were a lot of facts being thrown out and a lot of instances where I was completely blown away with the things that they were sharing and what these characters had to go through. But I think overall, I believe we're in agreement that there was a lot of jumping around. I wasn't sure what the actual main plot of this story was.
Yeah, I mean, it was about emancipation, suffrage, all these things, that happened during the Civil War, North versus South, and it kind of was a twist because everybody in the South was actually rebelling against each other too. I mean, this is a hugely dividing issue all throughout America's history, till today even, unfortunately. Obviously not as powerful of an objection, but it's still something that we deal with today, and there was really interesting parts of this, but as a whole, the story didn't really go anywhere. And it was just a bunch of historical events, which is interesting, but not as a film necessarily. More like a documentary.
There was a ton of tension. The story opens on a battle scene, and the battle scene itself is great, but it's sort of it didn't really go anywhere after that. There was a lot of suspense, and it was kind of a letdown because for a while it was just like, is something going to happen?
Right.
And then nothing really did.
All right, so on to characters. I think from a casting standpoint and from a performance standpoint, this was by far the strongest portion of the film.
This is the type of movie that you really see the type of work the casting directors. And every single person in this movie, every single person who had a nonverbal line, every person who spoke, every person who did something, even the extras were amazing in these battle scenes.
Yeah.
Everyone, the characters and the acting was
good.
Phenomenal in this movie.
even the little cameos, like the guys in the trench in the very beginning.
Oh,
like,
great.
Every bit of it was well acted. That's what I'm saying. This was it was really like the most well-made documentary in the world. Like, that's how I feel about it. It's the best acted documentary ever.
I've ever seen. Matthew McConaughey. I sum up Matthew McConaughey like this. If you hate Matthew McConaughey, I think you're just jealous of who Matthew McConaughey is. Because I've never walked into a movie with Matthew McConaughey in it and been disappointed at Matthew McConaughey.
In him.
Even in really terrible movies, he's incredible in them.
Yeah,
you don't ever hate Matthew McConaughey. And in this movie, I think people are now in Hollywood are starting to realize how good he is because earlier in his career, he was in serious movies, and then sort of in his late 20s, early 30s, he started moving to romantic comedies.
Yeah, he took a break.
But he was in Amistad. He did a couple movies with Sandra Bullock that were great. He played a lawyer in one of the movies.
Yeah.
And he's a phenomenal actor. And in this, he just showed off every chop that he had. And he was great.
Yeah, Guga Mbatha-Raw was incredible in this film. She played the woman Rachel, who ends up, I don't want to ruin the plot for you guys, but she ends up being a love interest in the film, and she was absolutely incredible. There's a couple moments, and as actors we look for those moments where someone can really make or break a scene, and she did not fail in any of those moments.
No, she was fantastic.
Her emotions were spot on, her reactions were spot on, and I think for me, she may have even outshined McConaughey because she had more moments that were really memorable, especially as a slave. I mean, think of the emotion that you go through on a daily basis. Is just mind-blowing. So she did a really great job.
Yeah, Mahershala Ali played a slave named Moses, and he actually named himself, and they had a really nice moment in the film where McConaughey asked him if he was given that name or he chose that name, and he said he chose a great name. This actor, if you go on his IMDb, you've seen him in a million things. He was incredible.
Probably most recognizable in this, though.
in this.
This is a standout
and
role
the role
for
he
sure.
played is sort of the tough, hardened yet soft,
He's
deep slave.
Yeah.
I thought he was absolutely incredible. He was captivating every time he was on screen. I could not look away.
Tremendous.
He took full advantage of every moment that he had, whether it was, a look or a line. He's not one of those actors that they're only good when they're talking. There was a ton of moments that it was just he was just still and he was standing, and you could actually see
His
tremendous
presence.
His presence is phenomenal.
On the screen. The cinematography these days is getting to the point where every movie is so good that when does something stand out, right? Something like The Revenant will stand out. And because, they're doing these super wide angles, super long shots without cutting. Birdman was another film that really stood out.
Same director.
Naruto?
Alejandro Inarritu.
Inarritu, that's how you say it. So, there's some really standout cinematography. This movie, I think, on a scale from 1 to 10, I would give it an 8 because there were some really interesting shots, especially during the beginning when they were in battle. I had some really standout shots there. I think they also captured the emotional moments really well in this film. I think the cinematography is one of the stronger points. I'll say that. I think it was done quite well.
There was some Steadicam work that I really, really liked. My favorite shot was they had this shot of a Steadicam in front of Matthew McConaughey as he burst into this church to find some Confederates.
Great
and
shot.
Whoever that camera operator was and the cinematographer did a great job. It was in focus and it was perfectly framed, and it was such an interesting shot to use there because they hadn't used it for the entire movie, and then when you saw it, it was just like, oh.
Yeah, and they had some
really
interesting...
put you got to see a lot of what McConaughey was doing with his eyes, which is the key to the actor's soul.
on the super close.
And it was great.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, they had some really cool quick racking moments too where they go between characters. I mean, it was above average for sure. I think it was an 8 out of 10. If 5 is average, they did a really great job on cinematography. All right, so post-production, everything you see when the film is over. And, I think, again, this is something we see on these large budget films. It's getting so good that it's hard to find continuity errors. You can go watch movies from the 90s and early 2000s, and you'll laugh at the continuity errors because you're like, okay, the guy had a glass of water in his left hand and his right hand, and it switches, and we see all these errors. But these days, you struggle to find problems with the film. You struggle to find problems with sound, with lighting, extras not doing their part. Post-production, the editing these days is incredible. These guys... I think the competition is getting so good, and people are getting weeded out so much that it's really becoming a science. It's really becoming a perfectionist game, and you got to be top of the class. And again, this is a top of the class production company, and post-production was really great. I think there's just one moment that we laughed at.
That we laughed at, and it involved a baby, and you'll see it, and you'll laugh. I think we're in agreement that we're actually going to hand out the same special award, but just to do different people.
Right.
Today, our special award is the Rising Star Award for our 2 favorite actors in the movie. Mine is Mahershala Ali, who played Moses in the movie. This guy was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
If I ever am lucky enough in my career to get the opportunity to work with him, I will shake his hand and say, "You are a damn good actor, my friend. I don't know why it's taking Hollywood so long to realize how talented you are, but you are absolutely incredible. And from this day forward, anything you do, I am a fan, and I will be there to see it."
Yeah, and I think that this movie could be a launching pad for him.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, because it was
he was unreal.
out.
Yeah.
And then, kind of my special award goes to a moment specifically that Gugu had, and it was basically she comes up into a bedroom after she finally is able to stay in a house after the war ends, and she sleeps on a featherbed for the first time, and that moment where she realizes that she's going to sleep on a bed for the first time, her reaction was so intense and so incredible. She hit that moment so well that it transported you to that moment, and you realized the hardships, that someone who's been enslaved goes through, and it really made me feel more than I already did for that time period and those characters. So awesome stuff, guys. I was blown away by the acting.
Yeah, it was
Best
incredible.
part of the film.
It was really, really good.
So on to the final verdict. This is a movie I think we both agree that we really want to like. And we did like the movie. But unfortunately, there's a lot of things that held it back, and it's everything that we've mentioned. The pacing, right? There could have been a lot cut out of this movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing. There were some subplot lines that did not have to be there, and they would not have detracted from what was important in this movie. So, for us, the scale is 1 is terrible, never go see it. 5 is average. A lot of movies fall in that 4 to 6 range. And then 10 is obviously
Safe for a special
just
view.
about unattainable, right? Except for a very few films that have been made. So where does this lie for you? Where do you think this lies?
I liked it. I did. I am under agreement with him where about 45 minutes could have been cut out. And I think that's the thing holding it back from giving it a higher award, because it looked nice, it sounded nice, and it was acted really, really well. It's just the story was interesting, but I don't know how interesting it was for a movie. So for me, I'd give it a 5.5.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I'll go with 5.5 stars. I think it's a solid 5.5 stars because there are so many good things about this film, but unfortunately a lot of things hold it back. So I really loved it. Acting was the standout part of this movie.
It's phenomenal.
By far. Congratulations to, great job to everybody that was in this
every single
film.
person
Every
who
single person
had a part in making this film go.
Yeah, fantastic.
Congratulations, because you did make a great piece of cinema, and we really, really enjoyed it.